Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. An old sedan sat down the long driveway. Inside, 3 brothers sat in tense silence, their father gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. They were headed to New Horizons Military Academy, a last-ditch effort to set the siblings on the right path after years of trouble. "This is ridiculous," muttered Ethan, the eldest at 25. He ran a hand through his shaggy brown hair, scowling out the window. "We don't need some boot camp to straighten us out." Next to him, 23-year-old Chris fidgeted nervously with the hem of his worn t-shirt. "Maybe it won't be so bad," he offered half-heartedly. "Could be a chance for a fresh start." In the front seat, 21-year-old Michael said nothing, his jaw clenched as he stared straight ahead. Their father sighed heavily. "Boys, you know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. The drugs, the fights, the stealing, it has to stop. I'm hoping this place can give you the structure and discipline you need." The brothers exchanged uneasy glances. They'd certainly made their share of mistakes over the years, falling in with a rough crowd and spiraling into addiction. But military school seemed extreme, especially at their age. As they pulled up to the gates of the academy, an imposing stone building loomed before them. A stern-faced woman in a crisp uniform approached the car. "Welcome to New Horizons. I'm Major Simmons," she said briskly. "Say your goodbyes and we'll get the new cadets processed." Reluctantly, the brothers climbed out of the car, grabbing their duffel bags. Their father embraced each of them tightly. "I love you, boys," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Make the most of this opportunity. I'll see you in 6 months." They watched as the car disappeared down the long drive, leaving them alone with Major Simmons. She fixed them with a stern gaze. "Follow me," she ordered, turning on her heel. The brothers trailed after her, exchanging apprehensive looks. Inside, they were led to a stark room with rows of chairs. Other new arrivals sat waiting, a mix of men and women of various ages. Major Simmons addressed the group. "You're here because you've lost your way," she began. "But New Horizons offers a chance for transformation. Our unique program will challenge your preconceptions and help you discover your true potential." She went on to explain the rules and expectations, strict schedules, physical training, classes, and counseling sessions. But there was an odd emphasis on self-reflection and exploring gender identity that took the brothers by surprise. "Now you'll each undergo an assessment to determine your individualized program," Major Simmons concluded. "When your name is called, report to the appropriate room." One by one, names were called and people filtered out. Finally, it was the brothers' turn. They were led to separate rooms for their assessments. Ethan found himself facing a kind-faced woman in a lab coat. "I'm Dr. Chen," she said warmly. "We'll be doing some tests to evaluate your physical and psychological profile." What followed was a battery of examinations. Blood tests, physical measurements, cognitive assessments, and probing questions about his past experiences and sense of self. By the end, Ethan felt drained and confused. "Based on your results, we believe you would benefit greatly from our feminization program," Dr. Chen explained gently. "It's designed to help individuals like yourself tap into your nurturing, empathetic side and develop more balanced emotional regulation." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Feminization? What the hell does that mean?" Dr. Chen smiled patiently. "It's a holistic approach involving hormone therapy, behavioral modification, and skills training. We've found it highly effective for individuals struggling with aggression, substance abuse, and identity issues." Ethan's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. But before he could fully process it, he was being ushered out and another staff member was explaining the next steps: a new wardrobe, hair and makeup consultations, etiquette classes. In a daze, he found himself reunited with his brothers. Their shell-shocked expressions mirrored his own. "Did they tell you?" Chris trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Michael nodded grimly. "Feminization program. This has to be some kind of joke, right?" But as the days passed, it became clear this was no joke. The brothers found themselves immersed in a surreal new world. Their usual clothes were replaced with skirts, blouses, and delicate undergarments. They attended classes on makeup application, voice modulation, and ladylike deportment. At first, they resisted, feeling ridiculous and humiliated. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. Ethan found himself drawn to the softness of silk against his skin, the artistry of a perfectly applied cat eye. Chris discovered a talent for hairstyling, spending hours practicing intricate braids and updos. And Michael, always the athlete, threw himself into dance classes with unexpected passion. Their bodies began to change too, thanks to the hormone treatments. Curves emerged where there had been hard planes. Facial features softened, body hair thinned. The brothers marveled at their reflections, alternately fascinated and unnerved by the strangers staring back at them. Weeks turned into months. The initial shock faded, replaced by a growing sense of peace and self-discovery. They found themselves opening up in therapy sessions, confronting the pain and insecurity that had driven their destructive behaviors. "I always felt like I had to be this tough guy," Ethan confessed one day, "like I had to prove myself. But now, I don't know. I feel free to just be me." Chris nodded in agreement. "I never fit in with the macho crowd. This feels more natural somehow." Even Michael, the most resistant at first, had to admit the changes felt right. "I thought I'd hate all this girly stuff," he mused, "but there's a strength in it I never appreciated before." As their time at New Horizons drew to a close, the brothers faced a decision. They could choose to continue their transformations or return to their old lives. After much soul-searching, they made their choice. The day of their departure arrived. Standing before the mirror, the siblings barely recognized themselves. Ethan's long hair fell in soft waves, framing a face expertly made up. Chris smoothed down a floral sundress, marveling at how natural it felt. Michael adjusted the strap of a sports bra under a fitted tank top, admiring newly toned arms. "Ready?" Ethan asked softly. The others nodded, a mix of nerves and excitement on their faces. They stepped out into the sunlight, where their father waited. His eyes widened in shock, then softened with understanding and love. "My children," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You look happy." And they were. As they drove away from New Horizons, the siblings felt a sense of lightness and possibility. They had confronted their demons, challenged their assumptions, and emerged stronger for it. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be explanations to give, adjustments to make. But together they felt ready to face whatever came next. They had found their true selves, and nothing could take that away. As the academy faded in the rearview mirror, Ethan, now Evelyn, smiled at her siblings. "So what should we call ourselves now?" Chris laughed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've always liked the name Charlotte." Michael grinned, flexing a muscled arm. "Michelle has a nice ring to it, don't you think?" Their father chuckled from the driver's seat. "Well, my girls, let's go home and start this new chapter together." The car sped down the highway, carrying a family forever changed but stronger than ever. The future stretched out before them, full of challenges and possibilities. But for the first time in years, they felt truly equipped to face it. As they neared their hometown, nerves began to set in. How would their friends and neighbors react to such a dramatic transformation? "Maybe we should have eased into this more gradually," Charlotte fretted, smoothing her dress for the 100th time. Evelyn reached over and squeezed her hand. "We can't hide who we are anymore. It's time to live authentically." Michelle nodded in agreement. "Besides, anyone who can't accept us isn't worth our time anyway." Their father cleared his throat. "I've, taken the liberty of letting a few people know what to expect. Your Aunt Susan has been incredibly supportive. She's planning a welcome home dinner for us tonight." The siblings exchanged surprised but grateful looks. It meant the world to have their father's unwavering support through this journey. As they pulled onto their street, familiar houses came into view. A few curious neighbors peeked out windows or paused in their yard work, clearly taken aback by the sight of the transformed siblings. Taking a deep breath, the family exited the car and made their way inside. The house looked just as they'd left it months ago, but everything felt different now. "Why don't you girls get settled in?" their father suggested. "I'll start getting things ready for dinner." They climbed the stairs to their old bedrooms, now seeing the spaces through new eyes. Posters of cars and sports teams suddenly felt foreign. Evelyn ran a hand over her collection of trophies, wondering if she should pack them away. Charlotte stood in front of her closet, surveying the baggy jeans and oversized hoodies with a critical eye. "I suppose a shopping trip is in order," she mused. Michelle flopped onto her bed with a contented sigh. "It's good to be home," she said, "even if everything's different now." As evening approached, the siblings helped each other get ready for dinner. They'd packed their New Horizons wardrobes, but still felt slightly out of place in their childhood home. Evelyn applied Charlotte's makeup with a steady hand, while Michelle wrestled with the clasp of a delicate necklace. There was a surreal quality to it all, but also a sense of rightness that couldn't be denied. The doorbell rang, signaling Aunt Susan's arrival. The siblings exchanged nervous glances before descending the stairs. Susan's eyes widened as she took in the sight of her transformed nieces, but her face quickly softened into a warm smile. "Oh, my dears," she said, opening her arms. "You look absolutely radiant." One by one, she embraced them, murmuring words of love and acceptance. The tension in the room dissipated, replaced by an atmosphere of warmth and family. As they sat down to dinner, the conversation flowed more easily than any of them had expected. Susan asked thoughtful questions about their experiences at New Horizons, genuinely interested in understanding their journey. "I'll admit I was skeptical when your father first told me," she confessed. "But seeing you now, you seem so much more at peace with yourselves." Evelyn nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "It hasn't been easy," she said. "But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm truly me." Their father raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, his voice filled with pride. "And to the courageous women my children have become." As the evening wore on, the siblings found themselves relaxing into their new roles. They swapped stories from the academy, laughing over shared experiences and inside jokes. "Remember when Michelle tried to do a pirouette in heels for the first time?" Charlotte giggled. Michelle groaned good-naturedly. "Hey, I got the hang of it eventually. Besides, nothing was as funny as Evelyn's first attempt at contouring." Evelyn buried her face in her hands, laughing. "Oh, God, I looked like a raccoon." Their father and aunt watched the exchange with bemused smiles, marveling at the easy camaraderie between the siblings. It was a far cry from the tension and hostility that had characterized their relationships before. As the night drew to a close, Susan hugged each of them tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "And I'm here for whatever you need as you adjust to your new lives." After she left, the family sat in the living room, the weight of the day settling over them. There was still so much uncertainty ahead, jobs to find, explanations to give, a community to reintegrate into. "I know it won't always be easy," their father said, looking at each of his children in turn. "But I want you to know that I will always support you, no matter what." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes. "Thanks, Dad," she said softly. "That means everything." The sisters embraced, drawing strength from each other. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, secure in their newfound identities and the love of their family. As they prepared for bed that night, each in their childhood rooms that now felt both familiar and strange, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities to live as their authentic selves. Evelyn stood at her window, gazing out at the quiet street. She thought about the long road that had brought her to this point, the pain, the confusion, the self-discovery. For the first time in years, she felt truly hopeful about the future. In the next room, Charlotte carefully hung up her new clothes, already planning outfits for the days ahead. She marveled at how natural it all felt now, how right. And down the hall, Michelle did a few stretches before bed, admiring the graceful lines of her body in the mirror. She felt strong, confident, ready to take on the world. As they drifted off to sleep, each sister felt a profound sense of peace. They had found their true selves, and tomorrow was the first day of the rest of their lives. The next morning dawned bright and clear, full of possibility. The sisters gathered in the kitchen, a newfound ease in their movements as they prepared breakfast together. "So, what's the plan for today?" Charlotte asked, expertly flipping a pancake. Evelyn sipped her coffee, considering. "I thought we might take a walk downtown, start getting used to being out in public. Maybe do some shopping?" Michelle nodded enthusiastically. "Sounds good to me. I need some new workout clothes anyway." Their father joined them, looking slightly overwhelmed but determined to be supportive. "Do you girls need anything? Money for shopping? Moral support?" The sisters exchanged glances, touched by his earnest offer. "Thanks, Dad," Evelyn said warmly. "But I think we need to do this on our own. Baby steps, you know?" He nodded, understanding. "All right, but remember, I'm here if you need me. And please be careful." As they set out, the sisters linked arms, drawing strength from each other. The familiar streets of their hometown seemed different somehow, full of new possibilities and potential challenges. They drew curious glances from passers-by, some openly staring at the transformed siblings. But the sisters held their heads high, refusing to be cowed by the scrutiny. Their first stop was a boutique they'd passed countless times but never entered. The saleswoman greeted them warmly, either not recognizing them or choosing not to comment on their dramatic change. As they browsed the racks, each sister gravitated towards styles that reflected their emerging personalities. Evelyn favored elegant, professional pieces that would suit her aspirations of returning to college. Charlotte was drawn to soft, feminine dresses and skirts. Michelle sought out athletic wear in bold colors and patterns. In the dressing room, they helped each other with zips and buttons, offering encouragement and honest feedback. It was a bonding experience unlike any they'd shared before. "You know," Charlotte mused as she twirled in a floral sundress, "I never understood why people got so excited about clothes shopping before, but this is actually fun." Evelyn laughed, adjusting the fit of a blazer. "I know what you mean. It's like we're discovering a whole new world." As they made their purchases, the saleswoman complimented their choices. "You ladies have excellent taste," she said with a genuine smile. The simple acknowledgement of their femininity sent a thrill through each of them. Buoyed by their successful shopping trip, the sisters decided to stop for lunch at a cafe in the town square. It was a popular spot, and they knew they were likely to run into people they knew. Sure enough, as they settled at an outdoor table, a familiar voice called out, "Chris? Ethan? Michael? Is that you?" They turned to see Jessica, a girl they'd gone to high school with, staring at them in shock. The sisters exchanged nervous glances before Evelyn spoke up. "Hi, Jessica," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "It's Evelyn now, actually, and this is Charlotte and Michelle." Jessica's eyes widened as understanding dawned. To their relief, her face softened into a smile. "Wow," she said. "You all look amazing. Are you happier now?" The sincerity in her question touched them. "We are," Michelle said firmly. "It's been a journey, but we finally feel like ourselves." Jessica pulled up a chair, eager to hear more. As the sisters shared a condensed version of their story, they were surprised by her genuine interest and support. "I always sensed there was something going on with you guys," she admitted. "I'm just glad you've found peace." As they continued their meal, more familiar faces passed by. Some openly gawked, others offered tentative smiles or waves. The sisters weathered it all with growing confidence, realizing that their fear of rejection had been largely unfounded. By the time they headed home, laden with shopping bags and newfound self-assurance, the sisters felt like they'd crossed a major hurdle. They had faced their community and emerged stronger for it. That evening, as they shared the events of the day with their father, there was a palpable sense of relief and joy in the air. They had taken their first steps into their new lives and found acceptance, both from others and from themselves. As the days turned into weeks, the sisters settled into routines that felt both familiar and entirely new. They navigated the practical aspects of their transitions: legal name changes, updating documents, adjusting their social media presence. Evelyn threw herself into preparing for a return to college, determined to finish the degree she'd abandoned years ago. She spent hours researching trans-friendly campuses and scholarship opportunities. Charlotte discovered a passion for baking, filling the house with the aroma of cookies and pies. She talked about maybe opening a small cafe someday, a dream she'd never allowed herself to consider before. Michelle joined a women's kickboxing class, reveling in the strength and grace of her new body. She even started mentoring younger girls, finding fulfillment in being a positive role model. Their father watched their transformations with a mixture of awe and pride. He made a point of using their new names and pronouns, even when he occasionally slipped up. His unwavering support meant the world to them. Of course, there were still challenges. Not everyone was as accepting as Jessica had been. They faced their share of confused looks, intrusive questions, and occasional outright hostility. But they faced it all together, drawing strength from their bond as sisters. As the months passed, the dramatic changes in their lives began to feel like the new normal. They still had moments of doubt or dysphoria, but they were increasingly outweighed by joy and self-acceptance. 1 year to the day after they'd first arrived at New Horizons, the sisters gathered in the backyard for a small celebration. Their father had invited Aunt Susan and a few close friends who had been supportive throughout their journey. As twilight fell, Evelyn raised a glass in a toast. "To second chances," she said, her voice full of emotion. "And to becoming who we were always meant to be." The others echoed the sentiment, clinking glasses under the soft glow of string lights. Looking around at the smiling faces of her family and friends, Michelle felt a profound sense of peace. "You know," she said softly, "a year ago I thought our lives were over, that we'd ruined everything. But now," Charlotte squeezed her hand, "now we know it was just the beginning." Their father wrapped an arm around each of them, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I am so incredibly proud of you," he said. "You've shown more courage and grace than I ever could have imagined." As the party wound down, the sisters found themselves alone in the yard, looking up at the stars. They thought about how far they'd come and all the possibilities that still lay ahead. Evelyn sighed contentedly. "I never knew I could feel this right in my own skin." "Me neither," Charlotte agreed. "It's like I'm finally the person I was always supposed to be." Michelle nodded, a determined glint in her eye. "And we're just getting started. The best is yet to come." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.